Beat It AT, what up? Beat It AT, what up? Beat It
What is going on, my brodies? It is Andrew, Beat It AT, Production and Publishing, bringing you guys a brand new YouTube video. In this YouTube video, we are going to be making or going over on how you guys can make a beat for Clever, or a Clever type beat. Maybe another artist that could be similar to would be a Moneyman or No Cap type of beat. Heavy influence with guitars, but more on the sadder side. Not like a Juice WRLD, Lil Skies, Andrew Spacey type of rock melody, but more of a somber melody. For those of you who may not know who Clever is a new artist. He's actually older, but he makes more of that alternative hip-hop rap type of music with singing rock gospel vocals over modern day trap beats. He has a popular song with NLE Choppa, but he's had some success with his own independent releases as well. I think his first major feature was on Juice WRLD's project. However, Clever just dropped a new project called Who Is Clever. A lot of the beats on here kind of sound similar in some sense, so listening to that project, I try to take away as much as I could from it and recreate a new beat with a influence of Clever or such. I'm gonna play this beat, but I'm only gonna play the intro, first chorus, first verse, second chorus, and then we're gonna start from there. We're gonna break the beat down then. So
Beat It AT, what up? Beat It AT, what up?
So that's the beat that we will be breaking down. As you guys could see on the left hand side, I labeled everything. So we got the chorus 2, chorus 1, which is really just chorus first half, chorus second half. I did some changes between the two. We got our intro and outro, which are the same pattern. We got the simple verse, so verse without kicks and percussion. Then we have a verse section with the kick and percussion. Then we have a verse with the low guitar added, and then we have a verse breakaway where it's kind of like that intro and outro, but we introduce the hi-hats and snares halfway through. And we got a riser, then I got my producer tag, an automation clip to fade it out, and then a parametric EQ filter for this part of the chorus. And you don't need to do that filter because usually those types of filters are usually done by the engineer. It's probably better not to do that. However, for demonstration purposes, I figured to add that in there. I would like to preface that in my master, I disabled my ozone. So because the ozone uses up too much CPU when I'm trying to record with Camtasia, which is my screen recorder. This is our main chorus, the first half of it. We only got 2 guitars, vocals, and then drums with our 808. So in our intro and outro, we have guitar 1 and guitar 2. Both of the guitars are from Ample Guitar G2, which if we look, they are both in different mixer channels. One is more stereoized than the other. So this one, you can see right down there, there's a bit of stereo effects on our guitar 2. So let's play guitar 1. So you're probably wondering what it sounds like without everything. So what does it sound dry? This is what it sounds dry. And as you guys can see, there is no samples, so this is all done in the box or on my computer. However, if you guys do want to get this project file, I'll put the link for this project file, including the dry stems, the FLP project, FLP zip the loop package, which will include the FLP and the drum files, and it will also include the MIDI files. I'll put all that in a little package down in the description down below. Just check it out, click that link. So then guitar 2, I'm gonna turn off everything. You can kind of tell how they kind of go back and forth and play with each other. The reason why I separated these two was I wanted one stereoized, one a little bit more in the center, and sometimes with the Ample G2 guitar VST, when you have too many notes in the VST, it doesn't play it right because it tries to emulate a real guitar. So if we want to look at that at this MIDI, this is the MIDI of the main melody. You guys can see the ghost notes of the other melody too. So then, if I mute this one, add my guitar rig 5, you can see it just brought it all up because the guitar rig 5 is an amp. I think that's the clean chorus effect. And I did Fab Filter Pro Q3, another one. So more bassy there. Clean. After I added that one, it cleaned up that low end a bit. We want to clean that low end so there's room for our 808. Add a bit of reverb, and then after the reverb, I added another EQ. Of course, it could be cleaned up probably a bit more, but it's good for demonstration purpose. I don't know if this was the Buzz Michael clean, so it's actually a little bit of a different amp. Then I did EQ, an effect rack. Adds more of a grit to it, a little bit of distortion and delay, but that was kind of my purpose, was to kind of add more texture to that, so that when we have both of them, it pretty much almost sounds like a real guitar, in my opinion. It can fool probably the average person. So let's jump into that chorus one. So then I added this vocal, which is actually from Arcade. Arcade is by Output. So if I just... It's super simple, but it does a lot. Because when we add those guitars, with the 808, add everything. Super easy. Hi-hat pattern, just a little bit of drills, a couple little chops you see. But it's really just looped around. It's really just this measure looped over and over and over. Kick, it's on the same with the 808, or should be. 808's kind of jumped around. You can see it's in that scale. I think we're in F sharp minor. Yeah, looks like we're in F sharp minor. So one thing that I personally like to do is I like to go to this website called TuneBat, TUNEBAT.com. Look up the artist and kind of see the BPM and scale or key that their songs are usually in, and kind of base a close. I like to get a close range. For Clever, I saw some like 130, 140 BPM stuff. Then I saw like 80 or 160 BPM stuff, which would be more of the rocky, like the more up tempo type of records. The NLE Choppa one, I believe, is around like 120-ish, because a lot of NLE Choppa's songs are around 120 BPM. They're either 120 or 160. So if I just turn off all of these. And if you guys want these drums, these drums are all in the AT Soundkit 5. AT Soundkit 5 has some of the best drums that we've ever made. That and the AT Soundkit 4 are stellar. So if you are a new producer, just wanting to get started, you already have your DAW, you just need to get your samples right, go to beatat.com or visit the link down in the description down below, and you guys can see the special offer I've set up just for you because you're watching this video. And I will also include the details on this Clever project. Let's continue. What's in that course 2? Well, in course 2, there should just be, what did we add? What was it? Yeah, we added a top melody onto our guitar 2. When I was originally making this, I didn't know if I liked that or not, and I still don't know. I believe also another difference was the fact that I added some open hats. One thing I like to do is on that second chorus, like right here, chorus 2, that second half of the chorus, I'd either like to add the kicks and add the open hats, or one or the other. We already had the kicks in that first half, and so I obviously was going to have them on that second half. So instead of, taking the kick drum out of here, because the kick's right there, I decided to just add the open hat there and add another melody top on that guitar 2, and then come over here and do that filter, which that filter is on the master channel. Let's see if we can, right here. Which really, that filter is a bandpass filter between the 80 frequency hertz to around 800. Bandpass meaning there's a band that allows the frequencies to pass through, and everything outside of that band gets cut out. It's kind of like that underwater effect. The reason why I did the cut at the 80 frequency hertz was because sometimes when you don't cut that, the bass is too much and it just starts distorting the actual beat because it's so crowded. It's kind of like pushing everything down there. So going into that verse, we got the simple verse. So I got rid of the guitar 2, got rid of the vocals, got rid of the kick, got rid of a snare, percussion, open hats. So all we have on here is guitar 1, 808, snare, and hi-hat. And that's why it's called simple verse. When we omit those elements from the chorus into the verse, tells the artist and singer, hey, this is a new section of the beat or song, change it up. And obviously, because this is a verse, it needs to be different than the chorus. The chorus is going to be catchy, simple, and that's why we can have all of those other elements, because we're not getting a whole bunch of bars that will crowd up the mix. Rather, we're going to get some singing and harmonization, which should be easier to fit in together with that chorus. Whereas in that verse, we might get ad-libs, stabs, layers, main vocals, beat chops, all of which will use up space. So keeping it simple is the key. So then moving 4 bars ahead, we then have that verse with the kick and percussion. So the only difference here is we still don't have guitar 2, but what we did add was a percussion and kick drum. So it also signifies like, hey, we're adding tension, we're switching things up by only adding stuff. And that's what we do for those 4 bars. So for the first 8 bars, it's pretty simple. And then into the next 4 bars, we introduce guitar 2. This does not have the top melodies. So this is just like our intro, but it has our 808, snare, hi-hat, and kick, and percussion. But the difference between this and that chorus is we don't have the vocals. I don't think we have this snare. We don't have that snare. And we don't have open hats. And we don't have that crash. And I also have a reverb. This is a little bit of a sidetrack, but there is reverb on that snare. I've noticed that a lot of these more rock-based hip-hop artists or alternative rap artists, they toss a little bit of reverb on the snare. I might have added a hair bit too much, but I like to make it kind of sound like as if it's a drummer playing it in a room, big open room, but clearly it's not a real drum and not being played in real life. So I digress. Anyways, we then introduce a 4-bar verse breakaway, which we have hi-hats, and I believe we just have snares. Yep, snares, hi-hats, and we have this one other snare. It's that perk snare, as you can. So in the verse breakaway, we got rid of our 808, we got rid of the snare in the first half, we got rid of the percussion, and we got rid of the kick. So taking all these elements out, this is like signaling, hey, this is the bridge. Maybe do a lot of vocal harmonies, or do a lot of singing, or do something simple. And because we're going from something very bare and simple back into the chorus where we have everything, it's going to hit harder. Rather than if we were to go from here, if we went from here to our chorus, the chorus would still hit hard, but it wouldn't hit as hard because this part of the verse has the most stuff. When we're speaking in terms of the verse. So if you go from the most elements in the verse to then the most elements in the song, there's really not a huge difference. And instead of just crowding the beat more by adding more stuff to the chorus and the beat, we could just omit stuff in that bridge section, which then, it hits harder when we come back into that verse. I know some of this might get redundant or I repeat myself, but that's to make when you are a beat maker or producer, you should take this into consideration, because having this decision making in your beat production will allow you to stand out from other producers who are just making full loops all the way through, which most artists that I've worked with like it when you signal when is a chorus, when's the verse. And then we have the riser, and that is really it for this beat. When making beats for Clever, there's like 2 styles. He has that very synthy, dark synth style, like in his song Loyalty, or he has these guitar not quite punk, but like soft rock, or like almost like a depressing, somber type of rock melody, and using VSTs like Omnisphere, AGM guitars, and such like that will allow you to get more of those realistic guitar sounding melodies. Let's see. I'm gonna jump through my mix chain a little bit. On that vocal, I did a bit of a pitch shift, going one octave higher, but I didn't do a full. I just kind of did a little bit on that mix level, about 60%. Did some EQs, did some reverb, compression, and more EQ. Did some EQ on percussion, EQ on that 808. I actually did not use Camel Crusher. I disabled it. I was using it, but then disabled it. EQ, then reverb on the snare, EQ on the hi-hat, reverb on that snare that kind of leads back in. For the kick, I did parametric EQ and soft clipper. Nothing on the riser other than a stereo separation. This is just my producer tag. Nothing on that cymbal. A little bit of reverb and EQ on the open hats. On the master, I did a bit of sound goodizer, saturation, compression. Not much. I would never do more than this. At least on my master bus. Not really anything on the EQ, just rounding off some of that low and high. Just nothing too much, nothing steep. Fat filter. I did some dynamic EQing. It's almost inaudible with the dynamic EQ because I was really focusing on some very, very small details. Ozone 8, I did some dynamics. This is more of dynamic compression. So just wanted to focus in on some specific frequency bands to compress. Imaging, obviously doing the mono on the bass. Yeah, that shouldn't be stereoized. So I just did that mono down. I created a bit of a stereo space in that low mid region. I did it in the low mid region because that's kind of where the guitar was sitting. Anything in the high, I'm not really worried about spreading that. I did a decent amount of limiting. After the limiting, there was it obviously brought up certain dynamics of the song, so I then pulled in a dynamic EQ, pulled certain elements down, like we got that 500 region, and then the 160 region and 1700 region pulled down, as well as some of the high. I don't want too much transients, as that could get harsh and just not sound too good. But you want to be careful, because doing too much, then you kind of make the beat sound too dull. So wanted to be careful with that. And then after that, I did a transient IRC4 mode for maximizing, with a bit of limiting and focus on the transients, since we have a lot. It's not consistent all the way through. There's a lot of hi-hats, snares, drums. I want to make sure those are still intact after all the compression and maximizing. And that's it. I just put a fruity limiter at the end, just to make sure nothing really goes over 0 dB. It's super lazy, but it's just a habit that I do. And after that, we have our beat. Automation clip fading out, and that's it. Hopefully this was beneficial and helped you guys out. I have a special link down in the description down below for you guys getting this project file for free. Just go to the link down below and you'll see the details on how you guys can get this all for free. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below. If you guys are looking for mixing, mastering, or custom beat making, feel free to email me. All my contact information is in the description down below. If you guys need individual samples or whatnot, All of that can be found on our website at beatitat.com, as well as drum kits and much more. This is Andrew of Beat It AT, Production and Publishing, and I'll see you guys later.